Welcome back to the Parrot podcast. I'm your host, Sandra, and I'm so excited to see you all. I am a little bit jet lagged. I just got back from a trip home to Canada, and it was a wholesome trip. I also did a lot of shopping for Mia and for Lambo. So I'm super excited to be back. And today we have another awesome guest. Her name is Anastasia. I hope I'm saying that right. And she has a very unique story and a very unique relationship with her parrot, who is a sun conure. I found them on Instagram, and their handle is @travelsunparrot. And she has traveled to like 10 different countries with her bird. She's been all over Europe, and now she's in North America, traveling Canada and the United States. So we're going to chat with her and see, what does it take to travel with your bird? Is it difficult to relocate? Is it difficult to go on vacation? What is the process like? What airlines did she use? What travel carrier does she recommend? And things like that. So I'm super excited to chat with Anastasia. Let's jump into it.
Hi.
And what is her name?
So her name is Papuż, like in the French manner.
Papuż. That's so
Papuż.
cute.
She
Papuszka.
yeah, exactly, Papuszka. Like in Ukrainian, that means not exactly parrot. It's around parrot. It's like not exactly, but I had one coffee and the sun is shining, so the
That's
perfect
awesome.
weather.
Well, I'm back in Poland right now. I was just visiting Canada, which is where I'm from. So I'm having a coffee too because I'm super jet lagged. I'm like sleeping all morning, staying up all night.
That's exactly like part of my family lives in Canada, and another part, like my brother lives in Poland now, and the rest back in Ukraine. So you're almost neighbors.
That's crazy. So let me start off with asking you about your parrot. I'd love to know more about her. So I know you let us know her name, but for everybody who's listening, let them know the species, maybe her age, and a little bit about her, what she likes, what she doesn't like.
So she is a sun conure, 4 years old. It's a girl, female bird. She loves to dance. Like she makes the dancing moves, and she's doing the beat, like toots 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 toots. And when she like hears the music, she can dance and sing. But whenever she's like no music at all, but she's in a good mood, she can just come to my shoulder and like toots toots toots. Come on, mommy, let's do it. Toots, toots. Come on, come here, come here.
I understand that she really doesn't like when you're on video calls.
And the interesting part, she literally flies around me, watching me doing something. She's so excited, she's so interested, but she never comes to my shoulder. And once I close the meeting, she will be here immediately. She was actually sitting on my shoulder for 10 minutes before I pressed the button. And once she saw you, she's like, I don't know why, she's shy or she's jealous.
But in person, she loves people.
Oh, she loves people so much. It's like no privacy, like as all the conures actually. She just literally lives on my shoulder, lives in my hair. She does everything with me. Like it's impossible to go to another room without her. Like sometimes it's annoying, sometimes it's lovely. Like regular, nice and friendly conure. She also makes the kissing sound, and she laughs like. So all my new friends are like, "Oh, she's kissing me." Yes, she is. Oh, she's so sweet.
Oh, she's so loved. Well, she seems to be very well socialized, and she's also very well traveled. So I want to know a little bit about your travels, and that's what sparked my interest in your page. I was like, we need to chat because this is so unique, and I have not seen anybody who has traveled to so many places with their sun conure, because it is a lot harder to travel with a bird than it is with a dog or a cat, for example. But you're going to tell us, because I don't know as much as you know. You've been to a lot of different places. So tell me first, how did you get Papuż, and what sparked your interest in parrots?
In general, I used to have badges, like a small parrot, for since I was a kid, maybe one and after another. They were sweet. My last budgie, she lived for 7, 9 years, and she was saying maybe 10 words in a row. She was chasing me around. She was very sweet. But when she passed, um, I traveled to Maldives myself and to
Mm-hmm.
a small island, and it was like a small round island with the huge outdoor cage in the middle of the island with any species of the parrots, exactly parrots that you can imagine. And I was spending there obviously all my time just feeding, playing with them, like any species. And in that place, there was a sun conure, and that sun conure was the most friendly. Like he or she, I don't know. She was coming to me all the time, like eating from my fingers, and that bird was so sweet. So I decided I need that one, just that one. And they're so bright and they're so colorful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the most important for me, she's like a kitten. She's literally like a kitten. She's so friendly and she loves people. Yeah, this bird is also like she loves everyone. So yeah, when I got back in Ukraine back, you can get that species, but you need to pay in advance, so it will be hatched. It's like they're rare, it's hard to get, but you can
Mm-hmm.
still do it. So I would say I was waiting for like in half a year. They finally gave me the bird. She was 3 months old. I was still feeding her like a baby. So she definitely thinks I'm her mom, and she definitely thinks she's a human. Because I was introducing her to another bird, and she's like, "Mommy, let's go home. I didn't want to. I don't want to stay here." And she always like she needs her human, and she loves human, but she doesn't react. Even the same species, like, "Hey, Papuż, here's your friend." I don't know. Maybe we need to
Really? That's
socialize more with other
interesting.
birds. But she absolutely loved people. But not like who's that? I don't know how to interact or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she's shy.
Yeah. I've
This
heard
is
that
how it is.
before. It does happen. I feel like it's rare, but it does happen where some birds just become like human lovers and they're not interested in other birds, even though they are flock animals. And you'd think that they would like to have, a flock mate that's a bird. And it's just depending on the bird. They're also unique and they have their own personalities. And when we have them as pets, they get used to us. Like I was away for a couple of weeks because I was in Canada. And so my husband was home with Mia and our dog. And when I got back, I could tell that she missed me because now, like every single day since I've been back, she is all day with me. Like you're talking about you and Papuż, like everything I'm doing, she's there with me. She's going to the shower, she's coming to the kitchen, she's making coffee, she's doing everything with me. So I can really tell that she missed me. And of course, I missed her too.
Same
But
here.
do you take Papuż everywhere with you?
Obviously, not everywhere. It's like being with kids all the
Yeah.
time. But obviously, I'm trying. I'm trying to. Yeah, we did. I'm doing aerial gymnastics and yoga and some stuff like that. And sometimes I take her to even the sport events. So like no leash. She just sits on me and integrates, and she's always behaved.
And you're
And
not
she's
worried
a
that she's going to fly away without a leash,
She
without
never
the
flies away.
harness?
Obviously, I don't walk with her with no leash outside outdoor,
Oh,
but
okay.
in case it's a room, so I know like if in case she even ever flies away, she will just jump to another human and that's it. She like whenever we enter a new room, a new space, she never goes away because she doesn't know the surface, she doesn't know where she can
Mm-hmm.
see it. And like for her to feel comfortable to fly away from my shoulder, it can take like up to a couple of days in new space. So she's
Mm.
like always
She's
here.
very
And
attached to you.
yeah, she knows a couple of other humans, like my friends. She knows them, so she can just.
Mhm.
So the only thing she does is she jumps from one shoulder to another shoulder. That's it.
Oh, that's so cute. So you've been to a bunch of different places. So let everybody know all of the different places that you've been. I want to know where you've been with Papuż, and I want to know how many countries you've visited together.
Yeah, I was trying to count, and I think it was something around 10. So obviously Ukraine and Poland, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, one more, Switzerland. That's it from Europe, and Canada and US, and that's it. And yeah, for now we're traveling inside the US. Because yeah, traveling internationally is really hard and really hard to do. But it's like I mean, explaining in Europe all the least we did the road trips. And
Yeah.
Canada, we did the whole road trip from Vancouver to Quebec and back. But that was a road trip. It's
Yeah.
like
So by
no
car.
fun. Yes, exactly, by car. Um, like traveling by car, this bird, like she loves it. It's so easy. It's so funny,
Hmm.
and she's like well behaved. And yeah, now we are trying to travel by car inside the US, and we just did our first flight inside the US, like with some of the airlines. They allow birds in a cabin.
Yeah. Did
Not
they?
all of them, and it's still expensive, but it's easy to do. Just
Yeah. When you're already within the US, I think there's like a handful of airlines that allow birds in cabin. Like Delta, I think, is one of them. I think Spirit is another one.
yeah,
And then it's a lot easier. I mean, you have to pay the fee and have a reservation for your parrot, right? But
yeah,
within the
definitely.
US, I think it's really easy. But tell me, let's jump into the beginning of your journey in traveling. So I know
Okay.
you're from Ukraine and we were chatting a little bit about that. I know it was like a really difficult thing that you went through, and it's up to you what you want to share with us. But let me know, like from Ukraine, how did you come to Poland? Did you come by car?
Yeah, if let's jump even earlier, like when she was 6 months old, we started traveling, like 2 years before the war. So it's not we are traveling not only because like we were forced to travel. I always wanted to travel, and I will always be worried, like no way I'm traveling and living here at home. Um,
That's amazing.
so that
How
was really,
cool.
yeah, but sitting back in Ukraine, like inside the US, for instance, it's such a huge amount of places you can go with the bird by car or by plane without crossing the
Mhm.
border, which is so easy. So like I can take her on a traveling. Inside US, like there are not much places I can go. Or crossing the border is so hard. So I was really stressed about that actually back then. But we were doing road trips even then. Like she's been to all places in Ukraine, like to our mountains close to the sea, like traveling around for a couple of times, seeing all the places, but it's not much, but still. So I mean,
Mhm.
we started really early. So because some people reaching out to me and saying, hey, my bird is afraid, she doesn't know how to sit in the car, or she's dizzy or vomiting or something, like feels bad or stressed. No, this bird knows how to travel, and this maybe because we started as a baby, she really loves it. In the car, she just
Mhm.
sits on my shoulder and stares in the window, and she loves it so much. Sometimes
Cute.
I was putting like a big cage on the seat with the seat belt on, and sometimes I was driving like slowly and opening the window so the wind is go like, and she was like, I'm flying, I'm flying, I'm flying. It's so funny. Yeah, so when the war started, we were forced to leave Ukraine, and obviously we crossed the border by car to Poland. And by car, we were like doing all the Europe trips. So all the Europe you're seeing, it's not about us traveling from US there and back. No, that was our story, like just crossing the border and didn't know what to do, being like with no cage and no nothing. We had nothing, so we were just
Yeah.
traveling. So that's the only thing that we could do. Back then, I didn't know if people get the US visa, and maybe it took a couple of months for Canada to open the program for Ukrainians to come. So it
Mhm.
took maybe, I don't remember, maybe 4 months, something around that.
So,
Around 4 months being just staying in the hotels and in the Europe, just waiting for our visa. So we had no place, we couldn't settle down, so we had no cage. So she literally lived inside my jacket, but we were having like
yeah.
stressful, extremely stressful, but still like how do you say, you make the most of it.
Yeah.
At least we
Honestly,
in
you
places.
really made the most of it. And I think that you're such an inspiration for that. And I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. I can't even imagine how difficult and how hard that was for you.
Thank you.
But my heart goes out to you and to Papuż, and I'm really happy that you're in a good place now and you found your way and you've been exploring and seeing so many places. So kudos to you for making the most of it out of a really, really hard and difficult situation. And I did want to also ask you, when you were crossing the border into Poland, because Ukraine isn't part of the EU, did you have to have any kind of paperwork, or because of the circumstances, they were letting everybody through with their pets?
So yeah, crossing the border, you have to have like CITES
Yes.
export permit, a CITES import permit. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you are.
um, so yeah, so thanks God, like even before war, we
You did
were
the
fully
CITES.
we were fully prepared. We had the passport, we like registered, we had the chip, we had our like vet that was like taking care of the bird and they giving me the health papers. Uh, yeah, to be honest, like maybe before couple of months before the war started, it was already like the situation not as well, and it half like some of the Ukrainians were thinking about, hey, maybe it's not safe anymore to stay. We didn't like we left after the war, but I started preparing and doing some paperwork before, so I was lucky, and
Okay.
thanks God we had all the paperwork.
Yeah.
So I started that process before, but just in case, because I will not leave my bird here, and like that's not gonna happen. So
Hmm.
yeah, so many people were saying, hey, that's a bird, just leave it there, like I'll take care, like oh my God, like how you can say
No.
that. So many people were saying that, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah, I totally understand you because I feel like our birds, our pets, our dogs, like they're like our kids. Like you love them. They're part of your family and there is no way that you're going to leave them behind. You will do everything that you possibly can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my paperwork, I would say her paperwork is like 10 times bigger, harder, more expensive, and took like way more time.
Yeah.
um
How
yeah,
long did
so
it take you in total to do her paperwork so that you could export her out of Ukraine and into the EU?
yeah, so um, that's really complicated question. Like usually it takes 1.5 months, I would say, something
Okay.
around that. But we didn't finish it, and the war started. So we actually, I had like a bunch of the paperwork, but not all of them. And we were crossing the border on the first days, and back then they had an kind of information on the government website that like these days you can just take your pets and go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember
So
hearing
that
about that.
it was, I don't know for how long it lasts. Obviously, like not maybe a couple of maybe months. I don't know, but we were crossing. Maybe it was the fourth day, third or fourth day of the war. So actually, everybody was stressed. No one knew what to do. Um, So we crossed the border. I still had like bunch of the paperwork, but it's still like Ukrainian bird. And I like crossing the border. I didn't know where I'm going. I didn't know if I have Canada visa or US visa or none of them, or I'm staying somewhere in Europe. I didn't know anything. I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm saving my thoughts. Okay, I'm saving my bird. Like the
Yeah.
worst case scenario, it will be adopted somewhere in Europe, but at least it will be safe. Like I'm not like leaving bird there. So we ended up staying in Germany. I have a very nice friends in Germany that hosted us for some time. So, and I also have friends that we are helping. So many friends were helping me. So it's impossible. So once I knew I have a Canada, I will have a Canada visa. and my family was going there, like my brother and my mother. We all like had the plan to go there. And I didn't know if I'm gonna have a US visa or not. It was still under
Mhm.
the question. So I was like, okay, we are going with you, just and we'll see what's gonna happen. If no US, I'm gonna stay in Canada. So to start the process to do so, I obviously I needed a status export permit from Germany, but I needed an address and I needed like to explain what's bird is, why we're here, what's going on. So yeah, and it was like it was around late March, April. So the war started in February, like second month. So I obviously everyone knew what's happening. And so I was just explaining myself like, hey, you're from Ukraine. We just need like to settle down somewhere. Here's all the documents. I need the export permit from the CITES. And I am thanks God. I just have German friends that were like speaking German and explaining like and helping and like, hey, here's my Ukrainian friend because not all of them know English even
Mhm.
in some government institutions. So we were lucky and so many people were helping us. So we got that expert permit actually.
I'm so
And to
glad
get
that you had so many people that were able to help you and support you during
yeah,
that time.
that's huge. Like,
Yeah.
good people is the most important actually in my life. So to cross from Europe to Canada, we need export from CITES and we need import permit from CFIA. It's food inspection in Canada.
But you also need
Um,
an import CITES as well, right?
no, in Canada, no. For this species, for sun conures, no. I was
Oh.
contacting them. Inside Europe, yes, both Ukraine and Europe, yes. In Canada, no.
Oh, so
Uh,
to go from Europe, so you were going from Germany to Canada, you only needed export CITES. And then once you
expert
had
CITES.
export CITES, then you needed import CFIA paperwork, and that's it
That's it.
to go from the EU. So those two pieces of paperwork you needed. I'm going to ask you a bunch more questions, but we'll come back to them. But did you also need like a health certificate or some kind of
Yes.
passport?
Yes, yes. You obviously you need to prove who's the bird, show the passport, health certificate. We did in Germany. It's health certificate is like I don't remember how many hours prior to the flight, maybe 3 days, something like that to the
Mm-hmm.
flight. I just showed. Also, there was a doctor. I don't remember. I think he was just speaking German, and I was just showing bird, and and actually what they can do all they can do they just scan the chip. We have the chip and we have obviously like the chip in the passport, so they just making sure this is that exact bird that in the passport, and they giving you like a paper with a stamp, and that's it. That was easy. uh, you just need to know where to go in case you're not local. Like I was like we were doing that in Frankfurt. We were staying in Hamburg in my friend's place, but we were flying from Frankfurt because I didn't want to do any changes. I needed to direct flight
Mm-hmm.
for my bureau to go. Like for the first time on the flight, I was so nervous. So I was like, I didn't know this city. I don't know this town. It's my first time. I don't speak German. Where should I go to get that paperwork? So I was like just
Yeah. The Frankfurt
searching for.
airport, by the way, is massive. That's where I was connecting and I missed my connection. And so I was stuck in this airport for almost the whole day. And it is massive. It was like so hard for me to navigate. I was like, where do I go? I was running around like a lunatic. So good for you for
Yeah.
navigating through that airport.
So to actually back then I hired a pet shipping company because I was stressed and I didn't know what to do. Now probably if I ever need to do it again, I would do it myself, but it's still so hard. The thing is like no one knows what to do with the bird.
I
No one
know.
knows the rules. No one knows the
I know.
requirements. And even like asking the authority like, hey, there's a bird. I'm like,
Yeah.
we didn't, and maybe some of them knows like some pieces, and they sometimes they even don't come together. Like,
Yeah. I
um,
know. We had
so
actually this problem too. I'll tell you really quickly because we used to live in Thailand and we had a sun conure named Mango.
Oh,
And so I also had hired a pet agent and they also missed pieces of the paperwork. And so when it came to the day of departure, they had gone for the vet at the airport for the health check and they said, "Oh, well, this is missing, so the bird can't leave the country." And I lost my mind and I cried nonstop. My husband didn't know what to do. At the airport, I was just like, I had to stop crying so I could breathe and check in with our dog. But yeah, it's very difficult because people don't know. And it's even more difficult when there is a language barrier. You probably already know that CITES paperwork is only valid for 6 months and then it expires. And it was just this whole thing. So our best friends who live in Thailand, they adopted him. And now we keep in touch over video. But it was very hard for me. And for like a year, I cried a lot. Sorry. Yeah, so it's
um,
really hard to
sorry.
navigate this process sometimes, and it's really hard to get separated from your pet. So I appreciate that you did everything that you could because I know how hard that would be if you did have to get separated from your bird because they
I'm
are
so
our
sorry
family.
about Manga. Yeah, they're like, she's really my daughter. Like, and I'm her mom. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry about.
I
Yeah,
know. It's
I,
okay now. It still makes me emotional because I still, I raised him. He's my first feather baby. And when we got Mia, we wanted Mia to have a friend and for Mango to have a friend. So we thought he'll finish his quarantine and then she'll be, full bill of health. And we thought they'll be together. But it just didn't align and the universe said this isn't happening. And so I had to come to a point where I had to accept it and make sure that he's just happy and healthy and in a good home. And we did that and we really did everything we could. But I get a lot of messages about traveling with your parrot as well. So that's why I wanted to invite you onto the podcast because I'm like, you're going to know better because you've been through the process.
same here. Now I'm saying, oh, we just crossed the border. Back then, I was crying every single day. Oh my gosh, it was so hard. Like
I
I had
know.
a couple of panic attacks because I really didn't know what to do, where to go. And on top of all that, we were like not at home.
Yeah, it's such a
um,
traumatic experience. And that's why, like, my heart goes out to you. And I love that you're sharing this with us. And I love that you're in a really good place and you figured everything out because I understand the stress, the trauma, the panic attacks. It is so overwhelming and so stressful, especially when you're in that situation and it's just like you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn. And like the information is all over the place, and you go on the internet, and this says one thing, that says another thing, and you're like, what do I do?
or actually nothing. Like after it, like in still some people knowing me through some parrot groups still reaching me out and saying, hey, help, like we're sitting right here, we need to to do something. And mostly, yeah, I'm sending them link, but mostly I'm providing emotional support, because
Yeah.
people are in such a stress and panic. And yeah, so
So where were we? We were
yeah,
in Germany.
yeah,
So you were in Frankfurt. So
and
let's go
friends.
back to, sorry, Mia. Let's go back to this process. So you needed export CITES from Germany. You needed import CFIA into Canada. You needed a microchip, a certificate of health from the vet at the airport, which is like certified and approved to do the health check,
Yes,
and a pet
exactly.
passport.
And a customs declaration. To be honest, that pet shipping company just sent me a sample, and they gave me the address. And I remember me coming to customs and saying, "Hey, I have a parrot," and they were like, "What? A parrot? We don't know what to do with a parrot." I'm like, "Okay, it's okay. I have a sample. Just fill it in." I'm like, "We've never seen a parrot in here." I'm like, "Yes, I know, but I'm taking the bird." Um, So yeah, that was just a simple paper. I'm saying what species and where it's flying and where is that.
I wanted to ask about the microchip. So, does a bird require to be microchipped in order to travel to Canada
So
or within Europe?
you have two options, or microchip or this how do you call,
The
I don't know,
band.
the band, the band. So it has to have like
Yeah.
number, or microchip has a number. Both works, but you
Okay.
have to prove that this bird is exactly the bird that you have on the paperwork, because the number of our microchip inside our passport,
Yeah.
or like
Okay. And
if
when your bird got microchipped, does it hurt? And where do they put the
no,
microchip?
under the wing. It didn't hurt at all. It's so small. Like she was like, "Eh,"
Um,
and that's it. No,
oh, great.
no problem. Yeah, I was also worried, and she said it's okay. Just and then like no worries,
Okay.
no healing, no problem. No, it's so small. It's just a number inside. So
Okay, perfect. So you get to Frankfurt, you have this customs paperwork, you have all your other stuff, your bird is microchipped, and they're like, we don't know what to do. What's next?
Uh, so I was just, thanks God I had the pet shipping company, so they were helping me. Even that they were like, Cyrus misspelled my name or address. I don't remember. I was driving to Bonn and back trying to get that. The customs were in the call with the pet shipping, explaining between themselves, to be honest. But the hardest part actually was CFIA, believe me or not. So to get the import permit, they require 45 days of the quarantine. If you have someone in Canada, so you need to provide them an address prior. So the inspector should go to that place that you provide. It should be like a big space enough with all closing the doors and windows so the bird will not escape. Because the cage should be there already
Yeah.
when the inspector comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've never been to Canada. I have no friends, zero people knowing there. I just need a space and the cage and the inspector going there, and I have like 1 day for that all. But yeah, thanks God it worked out. So they approved. They gave us that import permit. So in one single day, we were just flying there. The um, sad part on that, she had to fly in cargo. So flying in cabin, it's way harder to do internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And through all the people I know trying to do that, I know that only Turkish Airlines, one of my friends with also small species bird, I think that was a, I don't remember, like small species bird. They took the Turkish airline, but only after like maybe a week of discussion and fighting with the customer support, they allowed that. I was just okay. We just need to go. So
Yeah.
the pet shipping company, that's another thing that they did. They built like they are building the cargo box for each pet. So she was asking the size, the weights, the length of the
Mm-hmm.
tail, like the
Yeah.
radius of the perch. It should be smaller, bigger, and everything. So it has to have water and food inside and
Mm-hmm.
lock and all stuff. I was worried a lot, but the bird was totally fine. She was happy to see me. She was dancing. She was smiling. And after that, maybe for a week, she had that extremely funny, sorry, jet lag. She was just trying to sleep and then confusing like, Mom, then maybe I should sleep. No, I don't want to sleep. Thinking in the night and doing like all the moves, like maybe I should sleep. No, 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 no. Okay. Are we having fun now?
Yeah,
She was
actually, that's
so
so
funny.
interesting because I never thought about the jet lag because between Canada and Europe, depending where to where, it's 6, 7, or even 8, 9 hours difference. And that's quite the difference. I'm going through that right now.
Yes.
So how did you help your bird get through the jet lag and get back into a routine of like, we're here now, now it's daylight, now it's night?
No, thanks God we were going through it together. I felt
Yeah.
the same. I don't know. We just were sleeping a bit at daytime and just, hey,
Hmm.
hey, come on, come on. In the night, we were trying to sleep, pushing ourselves to sleep. But I don't
Yeah.
know, nothing. I did nothing special. I was just hugging her and just feeding her. No,
Yeah.
it
Just
was
over
just
time, like it takes time to adjust back into it.
obviously
Yeah.
she sees when the sun is up, so
Yeah.
she's trying to do that on time, but just it, yeah, maybe up to a week, like humans. So they're same as us, right? But oh, she's flying like literally over my head, doing circles.
She's like, who are you talking to? Who is that woman in the computer?
No, no,
Tell her
she
there's a cute little bird here too. Mia's just sleeping in my shoulder, in my
yeah, you
hair.
remember she doesn't care of the birds. I can say, hey, there's a nice
Oh
lady, and
yeah,
she will remember.
I forgot. So one thing when I was looking into traveling and using pet agents or like companies that help you with relocation or travel with your parrots is that they usually only help you if you're flying in cargo. But when you're flying in cabin, they tell you need to do the paperwork yourself. So it's a little bit more difficult when you have to do everything yourself because there is not a lot of information online. So this stuff is really good to know. But I would like to note for all of our listeners that every country has different quarantine requirements, paperwork requirements, and so on and so forth. So you really have to do your research, reach out to different pet agents or companies that do this. And iPata.org is a really good website to use. Is that the same website you use to find your pet agent?
To be honest, I was doing that all myself, just
Okay.
Google calling. I was even doing the cold calls, like all the organizations I can find, especially in going to US later.
Yeah.
I just didn't know who to call, where to go. I didn't know anything. To be honest, I didn't know about that website. And
Okay.
I was just going there myself, just calling people, asking like I was writing maybe 10 emails a day to all the institutions, to all the
Yeah.
emails I could find, calling the numbers I could like any related, but they were helping between, for instance, in Canada, right? I contacted CITES because I thought I needed an per permit, and thanks God, they responded, explained that for this species, for some reason, they don't need it, but you have to contact CFIA. This is how I knew
Mhm.
I need to contact CFIA. So that's what I did. And
Yeah.
so on. And then, yeah, some like the healthcare certificate and the customs that was due our pet shipping company. And like that CITES, I knew that I need the CITES, so I got it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, on the Canada, um, yeah, there were also so the inspector comes to the airport, so he needs to know that you're flying, and he meets the bird in person, and he just checks the bird. So it has to be scheduled with them. And he also was saying that we need a customs paperwork. So I was going back and forth, but in Canada, custom office closed at 4 or 5 p.m. and we were late for that. So I had to like run back and forth and asking for people, and I spent maybe an hour for that.
But did the inspector meet you at the airport in Canada?
He was there, but because I'm Ukrainian and I had to go through all the registering and taking paperwork for Ukrainians, I stuck there for 5 hours. So he left, obviously, but he was there. He checked the paper, he checked the bird, and he stopped by my quarantine place later, a couple of days later, and he just gave me the paperwork. He was nice and sweet, but eventually I have to meet them, so
Hmm.
he doesn't need to drive, and I had to pay for Canadian cargo. So pet shipping company paid for the cargo in Germany, but arriving there to get my bird, I also needed to pay them. Yeah, that was it actually. And 45 days. So in the middle of the quarantine, inspector comes, he collects the poop and he takes it for an expertise for avian flu.
Hmm.
And actually, in case you're free from the avian flu, they even release us a couple of days earlier because we're good.
Yeah.
Um, maybe like 5 days early. It was they also issued some release of the quarantine and saying you're good. There's like um, a poop
Yeah.
expertise. Yeah, actually, one more thing, avian flu. So to get the CFIA import permit, you have to prove that you were not in the zone of the avian flu spread. So, and it's changing all the time. So it can be consistent. They have on the website of CFIA, they have like a map and the list of the countries and even of the, like we were staying in Hamburg, that was safe. But even in Germany, they're like red spots and they're changing all
Yeah.
the time. You just need to be aware of that.
So
So
you
they
have to
were
keep
asking,
updating yourself.
you have to keep updating and your address of flying, especially address where you're flying from, shouldn't be in that like red list.
And how long do
Or
you need to be in an area that doesn't have the avian flu, according
that's
to
a
their
good
map?
question. Mm, that's a good question. Like no one usually travels with the bird, usually just
Yeah.
relocate. I think
Yeah.
that's it. And even to apply for that, I believe in for CITES and CFIA, you have to. I don't remember for how long you have to stay with the bird in the same space.
When you were choosing like where to go, why did you choose Canada?
To be honest, I always wanted to relocate to Canada from
Oh.
since I was a teen and a kid, and I always said no to US, no, 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 no. And here we go. Never say no.
Yeah, never say never. You
Never
learn
say
that.
never. And I once wanted to go to Canada and really loved it. We stayed there for 4 months with Papuż. And I have a family there and I'm happy about it. And I'm going to be visiting them like all the time. So I really love that country. That's the first. That's like one of them. Second, they opened the program for Ukrainians. And the third and the most important, all my family were going there, and I was just with them. So
Yeah.
I kind of mostly I was with Papuž on the first because all my family like they were flying different time because I'm saying I have no idea how long this paperwork will take. So you just
Yeah.
go and
I'll
and
see
don't
you
rely on me.
there.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it happened but my brother he was flying to Vancouver and me and my mom and my sister we were flying to Alberta,
Mm.
but we did that road trip from Calgary to Vancouver from to my brother's and back maybe 3 times or something like that. Uh,
Wow.
in case you're same here, like I didn't need the CITES import or export permit crossing from Canada to US, but US has this fish and wildlife
Yes,
how
I
they
know.
call
Fish and Wildlife
like
Association or something like that. So,
fish and wildlife services. So they actually the main institutions that like regulate the entering and exporting the wildlife. And only if you're inside the US, you can apply for a pet traveling passport, multiple crossing the border, which I'm about actually to do. And then like crossing the border to Canada by car, like
no
multiple
problem.
times, no problem, no problem. But I still need to contact CFIA and stuff. But
So to go from Canada to the US or the US to Canada, you just need the paperwork from the Fish and Wildlife Association and CFIA.
no, I
Oh,
wish, I wish. So from Canada side, it's just CFIA. Thanks God. Like side is
okay.
where I
To
was
go to the
asking side
States.
is if yeah to go to the
Okay.
state. To go to the state is fish and wildlife import permits and inspection. So so they have a list of designated ports. So you can just cross wherever you want. They have a list of the places you can actually go, and inspector you have to schedule an appointment 72 hours prior your entering. And the inspector comes to the place, meets you, sees the birds, and does like a huge amount of papers, stamping and stuff, and gives you all the verifies everything, and then you're like free to go. Fish and wildlife, that's one who's given that permit, and the second one you need from the US to enter is one sec. I have USDA. It's agricultural
Mm,
department.
Yeah.
That one actually regulates the healthcare, and they may require the quarantine. That's the most hard part, because in the US
It's
you cannot
30
go to
days, I
quarantine,
think, right?
and
In a
to be
quarantine
honest,
facility.
because US they also have a map on the list of the like avian
Avian
flu
flu.
spread, and you cannot stop. I will not stop. I just need to go home, please. It's been so long. But we were driving all the way from Canada, crossing the border and driving all the way to California. So that took us a couple of days.
Wow.
um,
Okay. So
yeah,
let's jump back to the quarantine part, because this is a really interesting one. And as I mentioned before, every country has different requirements for quarantine, for paperwork and things like that.
inside US, as long as I know, it's New York or Miami. No even facility in California. So I need to carry my bird there, really?
Oh my
And then
God.
how should I bring it back? It's
That's
yeah.
crazy. And the thing that like also is really stressful about a quarantine facility is like, you don't know. Can you see your bird every day? Can you visit? How are they taking care of them? How are
As
they
long as I
feeding
know you
them?
can't.
And who's
As long as I
looking
know you
after
can
them?
visit.
Like I feel like it's stressful for the bird too, because, like I'm very specific with my bird. I'm very specific with her diet. I'm very specific with, her day-to-day activities, her enrichment, her happiness. And, putting them in a quarantine facility is really stressful, I feel like, for the bird, but also for the owner. And you don't know what they're doing or how they're being cared for. For me, I'm like, just put me in there with her. I'll stay in the quarantine facility.
Exactly. And yeah, and Canada, it also has like that map of the spread, which is changing all the time. And we were in the green zone, and we just
Mm.
finished the quarantine. And actually, that's agricultural department. I was so with fish and wildlife, you can just go online and you can apply for that stuff. But in that agricultural, like I needed an US address, mail line to apply and to just create an account, which I didn't have. Like I've never been to US. I have no address yet. So I was just emailing them, and they were like sending me some forms in the email, and I was sending them back, and it's like $150 fee for that application. And so I didn't know till then if they're like releasing me or not. So they issue in that import permit from their side, and it's saying like requires quarantine or doesn't require quarantine. And they were the last institution I was getting the permit from. So yeah, so cross the border to from Canada to US, you need CFIA export permit, health certificate again. CFIA provides some their inspectors that you need to go to. You need to schedule an appointment with Fish and Wildlife and get the import permit from Fish and Wildlife, and you need import permit from USDA, Agricultural Department in the US. Yeah, and some customs they just can just come and say, hey, this is the parrot, I'm taking the parrot. Maybe they make you to pay the fee. It depends on the country. It's not much, so they just checking the bird. Yeah. Yeah, and we were crossing the border by land, so we couldn't. So between Canada and US, maybe there's a couple of ports where you can
Mhm.
go. So we were
Yeah, yeah,
driving like this, not straight. We were doing like a
yeah,
whole circle. And same with the airports, they have also a list in case you're flying. Also, the list of the airports you can land. Not all of them. Just need to check that out before buying the ticket to whatever.
yeah.
Um,
And so let me ask you this, because I'm sure that people are also wondering, did you find it to be expensive or affordable traveling with a parrot when it comes to doing all the paperwork, the carrier, the flight, the reservation, and all these types of things? What is your personal experience and opinion when it comes to the cost of this?
mm, no, in general, it's expensive. Traveling is expensive.
Yeah.
Traveling with the pet, it's expensive. Traveling with the exotic pet, it's You need to
Expensive. Thank you.
like,
Because
yeah,
I
but like
found the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, this is so expensive.
this is crazy expensive. And I'm saying now I need a private plane because
I
I'm not
know.
going through all that stuff again. I'm not paying like all the stuff I'm paying to the airlines to take my bird. I already can afford like a private, not obviously, but it's my
Yeah.
favorite joke. Like
I know a private plane would make it so much easier. And actually,
exactly.
if someone can afford to fly private, I do have some good information. There is an airline, but they only fly from New Jersey in the United States and into New Jersey. They're called K9 Jets. I want to make sure I have that right. So I'm going to jump on Instagram really quickly. But I've messaged them before and I asked them, would you allow birds? Because here they are, K9
Okay.
Jets,
Okay.
and they are a pet friendly paper seat private jet charter. And they fly with dogs. And so you can see here, like there's dogs, and I'll share some photos. And they're just on the seat, like with everybody, with their owners. And I've messaged them before and said, would you take birds? Because I get this question from people all of the time about traveling with their parrots, because with dogs and cats, everybody does it, and there's a lot of information. With parrots, exotic pets, it's very rare and there's not a lot of information. So I messaged them and they said, as long as you have all the paperwork, then yes, we will take birds. So if you can afford it, you can go with that option. When I looked, I believe it was about $10,000 per seat. So it's expensive, but we know that flying private is expensive, right? And I think that hiring a private plane or a private jet to yourself, I don't even know what that costs, but if you wanted to fly private, I think it's 10,000 US dollars. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a better.
we're gonna have to start
That's
a
a
GoFundMe.
That's a goal, No, actually, but flying inside US, we were flying with Spirit. That was my first ever experience inside. And obviously, on their website, they're saying dogs, cats, and domestic bird. What exactly are you considering as domestic bird? Is it a chicken or what?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, actually, because it's and they were actually mentioning that big parrots are not allowed, something like that. I was not sure, so I always contact the customer support before booking whatever and anything. And I'm saying, hey, I have a sun conure species. This is the photo. This is the bird. This is the size. Can this bird go through that? And yeah, they were saying yes, 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 yes. I said, okay, yes, but do I need any paperwork for that? And the answer was, please bring all required paperwork. I'm like, which required paperwork?
What is the
And they were just,
required paperwork?
what is the required? What are you talking about exactly? Can I have any list or any? They were just sending me the links on the Spirit airline website with
Mhm.
the
Pet
list of
policy.
policies. It was so like general
Yeah.
and not, it was like maybe 10 points, bullet points, but none of them actually were related to us. It's
Yeah.
not a dog, we are not flying to Hawaii, like,
Yeah.
and
And
so we
sometimes when
ended
you're
up,
talking with these agents, they themselves aren't really sure
exactly,
because
of
parrots
course,
aren't like something that people commonly fly with.
that's a biggest problem because no one knows anything. So at the end, we don't need any paperwork. Spirit, at least, I just show up with the bird and I said, hey, there's the bird, and they said, okay, go. And it was $125 one way. So it like, but yeah,
$125 is not too bad.
yeah, in cargo is way more
Yeah.
expensive, obviously.
Yeah.
But in case you can sneak into the cabin, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Actually, I
So
wanted to show you the cage that we're using for the airplane.
so
So
this is
I
when
just,
you this is the carrier that you used for flying in cabin within the US. It's a soft carrier. Wow, that looks great. Where did you buy
yeah,
this?
Amazon. It's just an Amazon, and there are like plenty of stuff that you can. fine, and it's really
It's light.
light.
Yeah.
It's super light, and it has a perch, and my bird loves the perch. It's actually the second one because she destroyed the first one. Like
Oh
she
no.
loved it so much. The perch was like in the pieces, and
Oh my
but it
gosh.
this is how birds work.
Yeah.
It's
And
not expensive though,
how much was the
so
carrier?
around $50, I would say.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's not bad.
even less, something
Yeah.
like that. So I think it's
And I also wanted to ask about what was I going to ask? The different types of airlines in the US that allow birds. Did you look into other options? Do you remember what they were? I know
I
Spirit is
did,
one. I think Delta is another. Maybe
and
United.
Frontier for sure,
Yes.
and Alaska as long as I know.
Yes.
And United, that's a good question because I'm gonna be flying with United, and I will contact their support because there's, um, if I remember correctly, they're not saying anything about the species. So some of the airlines saying just pet, depending on the size, some of them. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
And do the airlines, like for example, Spirit, so that you can get the appropriate carrier that they approve to have in cabin on their airline? Did they give you like the measurements or was it on the
yeah,
website?
of
Yeah.
course, they have their like size, which for this bird is never a problem because
Yeah.
it's usually like even for, like it's same for dogs. So
Yeah.
obviously even for a small, if small dog can be there, so
And I know
yeah,
that when dogs are in cabin, they're in a soft carrier that has to fit under your seat. So, of course, a small
exactly.
parrot in a soft carrier will fit under your seat. But did you have to have food and water in there for her? Or there was nothing about that?
There was nothing about that. That was a 40 minutes flight, so
Yeah. Domestic flights are
and
pretty short. So I think that you probably don't need to worry about that. But with international
interesting.
flights, you have to have it.
My sister was just flying from Germany to Canada with the cats, and actually the requirement was do not feed your cat 5 hours prior. I'm like, what? So it's not gonna poop or what? Like,
Yeah,
why?
maybe
That
not poop, or maybe they get sick and might vomit or something.
maybe. So
Or,
opposite, like
yeah,
don't
maybe they get
feed.
like sick and they don't want them to get nauseous or something. Yeah, I mean, the thing is every
Interesting.
airline also has their own rules. So when you find the airline you're flying with, depending if it's domestic or international, you have to look up what their rules are. And the best thing to do is to contact them, call them, chat with them in the message box, look at their pet policy online because it can be different. Like the pet policy online might be different than when you call them and talk to them, which is
I
confusing
would
as well.
say never do anything before talking to customer support and making the screenshots on their answers, because later another person can tell you as totally opposite, and at least you have some like here I'm here not because I was just wondering, I got an answer from your customer support, what should I do? Because
Yeah.
yeah, same is like I also wanted to mention like when we traveling, it's always a question hotels or staying somewhere. So my answer to that is Airbnb. And actually I work on my profile. I have like a bunch of the reviews that this bird is super well trained, it's super sweet and nice, and you can always like rely on it. But I never book
Mhm.
anything before. So I firstly sent like a nice message. Even pets are allowed. I'm saying, hey, I have a bird, and she's really sweet and nice. Is it okay? And you can like see my reviews. She's really soft, like, and I would say half of the situations, even people not allowing pets, they like if you talk to them, if you like being nice and explaining the situation in person, that always works.
Yeah.
Just going and booking
Yeah.
and saying,
I
hey,
think Airbnb is great. And I've done the same thing. Like when we've, done road trips or traveled with our pets, I always look for an Airbnb that's pet friendly. And before booking, I always message the host and I say, hey, I see you're pet friendly. We have a dog, we have a bird, they're well trained. Sometimes I'll even send them a picture. And, people in general are nice and they want to accommodate you, especially, with their homes. They're on Airbnb Airbnb for that reason. So, and if you find a place where, it doesn't say pet friendly, like you said, I think it's a good idea to at least message and reach out and try and explain the situation and let them know about your pet. And you'd be surprised because there are a lot of people out there who do want to help and help you with, traveling or with your specific situations and so on. But I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to the airlines because we were chatting about that. I remember when I've called and talked with airlines before, they did say that it is like specific types of planes, but it's also interesting that it's on specific flights. So that's also why it's important to talk with customer service or customer support first before you book your flight and make sure that they will accept them in cargo or in cabin, depending on the airline. And then from the information that I've had and done previously, you book the flight and then you immediately call them to make a reservation for your pet. And then you pay for the reservation at the airport.
Exactly. So yeah, my pet shipping company is saying, do not book your flight before we've done this everything for the parrot, and only then go and book like a regular human one. But it was booked separately, maybe because of the cargo. It wasn't like the same ticket.
Okay. And then that also brings me to cargo versus cabin. So with Mango, he was going to be flying in cargo. I was really stressed about this because you see videos online of what cargo can look like, and I'm sure every airline and every flight is different. But that was something that was stressing me out. And I talked to a few avian vets and a few pet agents, and they all told me that small birds don't always do very well in cargo, and it can be very stressful and anxious for them. Now, I know Papuż did a great job and she was really happy. So tell me a little bit about Papuż's experience in cargo. Like, do you know if she was quiet or if she was loud? Like, what was her behavior like before? Did her behavior change after, or was she totally okay, happy, healthy? Everything was fine.
Yeah, I actually sent you a couple of photos of the cargo itself. That was the moment where we were like whole pet shipping company in the morning where Papuž coming. She was like playing with everyone. She was so sweet. Doesn't want to interact with me. I'm so jealous. Uh, she was happy going there, and she was happy when I met her. To be honest, no one provided me any additional information, and I had a lot
Okay.
of stress around my own situation. So the
Yeah.
scene I know.
Were
No,
were
I
you
just know
stressed
that.
out to put her in cargo?
Oh, oh yes, me. Yeah, I was very stressed. She was like, we were putting her, gave her her favorite treat, and she was like, quack, 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 so happy, kissing everyone, just like I don't know, interact with everyone, dancing, and that's it. They just, I would say they took her away. Maybe no, even more. Maybe 5 hours before the flight, maybe more, even more. And I got here after the flight, maybe 6, 7 hours. So it was like
A
a
long
lot,
time.
a long time. That's why she has, I have obviously food and water
Yeah.
inside, but she was super happy dancing and kissing again when I met her. I didn't notice any difference, any stress on her except for the jet lag, but she was
Oh,
kissing and
that's so
dancing right there.
good.
I
That's
was,
really good
oh
to
God.
hear.
Yeah, because I was stressed, yes, obviously. And if I like, I, maybe one day we'll have to go through it again. So maybe, but I hope no. Like it's still a stress for everyone flying. But
Yeah.
maybe this exactly bird, she really got used to traveling. So she's really doing good. She behaves way better when we're traveling. She loves it. So the problem is when she's bored at home. But when she's traveling,
Yeah.
she's so like well behaved, really bad.
She's in her element. So she's a travel
Yeah.
birdie.
Exactly. Like she really loves that. No, she enjoys the weather and the sun and the people, and she hates being left alone, like all the birds, obviously, at home.
Hmm.
And I definitely can say from her behavior, she always prefers to go with me than sit there.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
she
so
has no
sweet.
stress. That's what I mean. Like she just sits there and she's.
Yeah. She's a happy, very well socialized and trained bird. You did such a great job. You're such a great
Yeah.
bird mom.
Oh, thank you so much. From Germany to Calgary. It was just
Mhm.
a direct flight. I knew like
Yeah.
it's stress for the bird, and the most stressful is landing and
Yeah,
taking off, right?
takeoff
Not
and
actually.
landing. Okay.
So my idea was if we need to go, it should be one single one. But I have a
Yeah.
friend that he was flying from, I believe, Poland to Vancouver. If I maybe I'm wrong. So
Mhm.
he did the Turkish airline, and they did the cabin. They accepted the bird, but he said that was like hell to just talk to them and to convince them and to prove something, because it was not just, hey, can I take the bird? Yes. I think like international flight is so different from the like flying between states,
Domestically.
because
Yeah.
domestically, because it's like a bunch of the border control. But if it's Turkish airline, obviously it's changed in Istanbul. So he did
Yeah.
maybe two flights, which I don't know what is better for her. I cannot ask my bird, but I assume that taking off and landing is the worst than sitting,
Yeah, because the
because
pressure changes, right? Like we feel it. Our ears
they
pop.
feel it.
I always have to have
Exactly.
like a candy and I'm like, and then I'm
Same
yawning so
here.
that my ears pop. So they probably, feel something too when it comes to the pressure when we're taking off and then when we're landing. So, yeah, finding an airline that will accept birds in cabin internationally is quite difficult. It's a lot easier with dogs and cats. And I really hope that as we have these conversations and talk about it and put it out, on social media as well, maybe more airlines are going to start to realize like pets, whether it's a dog or a cat or a bird, they all are family members for these people. And maybe we need to start accepting birds in cabin as well. I mean, I think that it's important that your bird, of course, is trained and you have tactics to keep them quiet because we know that birds can get really loud. And we don't want to be that person where your bird is screaming. But again, kids are also screaming and crying on airplanes too, and they can be just as loud. So,
No, I believe my son Conure can be way louder than anything else.
well, yes, that's true
Oh,
because sun conures are the
son
loudest of
Conure.
the conures and they can reach 120 decibels. So
Exactly.
they're much louder than green cheeks, but as long as you have like tactics to keep your bird quiet, or, if they start to scream, to get them to calm down. Like if Mia sees me or I start talking to her or singing to her or whispering to her, she just quiets down immediately.
To be honest, traveling, she might scream one scream in a week. She doesn't scream at all, because when she sits at home and she's bored, oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
But traveling, she's quite. She's
Yeah.
just excited. She's like she doesn't know anything. She just watch. She loves
Yeah. They're
looking outside
observing.
of
They're
the
like, what's
window.
happening?
Yeah,
Interesting. What's that? Who's that? Oh, what do I see?
yeah. And obviously, she's always with me traveling. Obviously, and when she's
Yeah.
with me, she's fine. Like no worries, bird. And she also like has that pot tray and stuff. So she poops by command, and I say poop, and she poops. So even that is not a problem. So, oh wow, she's
Cute.
like literally flying here.
She's like, I'm
Come on,
interested in that
come on,
lady, but
come
I'm
come
skered
on.
of the computer. Why is
Yeah,
she
but
on the screen?
she will
Papuş,
be immediately back on me, like in a second. Come on, please.
Papuş.
She flies in in the
And what was
surfboard.
the process like when you were going through security? Did you have to take your bird out of the carrier for them to put the carrier through?
No. So they require me to be in their office maybe 10 hours before the flight, something like that. They check everything, they do the proper paperwork, they put the bird in the carrier, in the cargo box,
Yeah.
and they took it away. That's it. So I haven't seen the bird, and only after landing and going through all my security paperwork, I was driving in Canada to Cargo City of Air Canada and getting the bird out from there.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the stress. I would have such separation anxiety because I do have separation anxiety when it comes
Yeah,
to
I
Mia.
know.
Oh my gosh,
But
that's
it ended up
crazy.
well. It's okay. We had to go
Yeah.
through that. That's was our pets to come here, so no worries.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
I was stressed, obviously, of everything. So
Yeah. And also our pets, they can like feel and feed off of our emotions. So when we're stressed, they might or feel anxious, they might feel that as well. So we always want to kind of remember and coach ourselves to kind of like be positive, everything will work out and try to like calm down also for our pet's sake. But Papuş is a brave, well-traveled little girl.
yes, she is for sure.
How long did the CITES paperwork take and like the whole process of getting everything?
I would say side is 1 month, over a month, because they do mail. Mail goes, it's like time for
Yeah.
process and stuff. Like in case you're planning to go somewhere, I would start 2 months before at least.
Yeah.
It can go faster, but no one can prove that. Or
And then before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any last recommendations for anybody who is planning to travel? Like, what are your top tips or recommendations for somebody?
I just wish that more people start traveling with the birds, not on the flights though, because that's a stress. But we love road trips, and like I wish more people consider taking the birds with them traveling, because I hope that for everybody, but for us, for my bird, it's simple, it's funny, because you were mentioning that it's more hard to travel in with birds than with dogs. On the flight, yes. On the road trip, no, because she's
Mhm.
small. She has her space. She loves all that, and she's with me. So I don't know, just start from somewhere and don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also provides your bird with like so much enrichment and they get to socialize more and they get to see more and just become less scared and more enriched in their lives.
Oh, exactly. More happy. I don't know. I feel like my bird is happy whenever she feels the sun and she's on the ocean and she interacts with some stuff. I don't let her play actually on the wildlife, like on the trees,
Yeah.
because after going through all the CFIA stuff, they were like, wildlife poop and all this stuff. So she's staying on me or staying on the subject that I know.
Yeah. You
Uh,
need to be really
but
careful because you don't want her to get sick.
yes,
Something
exactly.
up.
That's
Parasites,
that's
bacteria.
So I
Yeah.
never let her play on the benches or the trees or like on the ground. She's on me, but she can still feel the vibe.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And where is her favorite spots? I know she really loves hanging out by waterfalls, but I know you've taken her to forests and other different places. What are her favorites?
She loves the waterfalls because the water, like the small drops of the water, goes on her, and she thought she's taking a bath. She thinks that, and she opens the wings and she cleans her feathers, and she enjoys that so much. Um, sometimes she's afraid of the loud water, like huge waves. Not afraid, but some more stress. So like the smaller ones is sweet. She definitely loves the forest, all the birds winking and the um what else? I feel like she loves being in the car in general, because she sees like the stuff
Everything.
is she actually loves the window even at home. She's always like sitting and watching, and when it's changing, that's interesting. Um, I don't know. Yeah, and one of the problems that sometimes you have is like inside US, especially the eagles. Whenever she
Yeah.
sees a big bird, and she just screams and hides.
Yeah.
That's just
But you always have
how
her
it
on
is.
a harness, which I think is important. And it's also important to make sure that you're looking up what predators are in the area to keep your birds safe.
Yeah, that's why we using the leash.
Yeah.
Outside, we always use leash. It's not about her. She never tries to escape or leave me, or but she might be frightened of something like car horn, dog bark, eagle on the top, some noise, and she's
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
it's just security.
My last question. What is your most memorable travel experience with Papuş?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Niagara Falls, because
Oh,
That's a huge one. I enjoyed that one. She was so happy because it was such a good weather. It was August, so it was not hot, not cold, perfect, sunny, and the water was obviously, how do you say,
Spraying, misting.
spraying mist in her. And she was so beautiful, so fluffy, and so happy. Yeah, so maybe that one. We loved Canada. We loved mountains like Lake Louise and
I've
all.
always wanted to go there.
Oh yeah, and my favorite is Lake Moraine. Lake Moraine was the best. She loved that all. In Canada, in the mountains, it can be cold sometimes, but I don't know. Some, even if like it's not snowing or what, is summertime still.
Yeah.
But so she sits in my jacket and then she's so curious. I'm saying, Papuż, it's cold. She's like, no, 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 I want to have fun. So she gets out. She's like, "Tut, tut, 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 tut." And then she realizes it's cold. She jumps back. But in 5 minutes, she's again like, no, I'm not going to sit here.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
worry about the temperature. I'm always like so specific about when Mia is outdoors, like we put her outside in a cage so she can get sunlight, but usually in the summertime because in the wintertime I feel like it's too cold for her. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, I'm trying to be like a mom that always says, "Hey, you have to do that." But sometimes, like, I'm trying to trust her because she has an option. This is where she can hide, and she sits there half of the time. And sometimes she feels like going out for some time. Like, okay,
Yeah.
and so
And
we'll.
when it came to harness training her so that you could have her outside and go to all these different places with you and like experience everything, these mountains and nature and lakes, was it a difficult or long process to get her harness trained?
Yeah, thanks God we started 6 months old, so she was a
Yeah.
baby,
Yeah.
because she hated it obviously. Like,
Yeah.
no, but now she's fine. Now she's absolutely okay. I cannot say if she loves it still,
Yeah.
but she's fine because she really understands that we're going out. It's
Yeah.
not like a torture or something. So she's like,
Yeah.
okay.
I've heard that harness
But
training is a long process and it's like
yeah,
the highest level of like parrot training you can do with your parrot because it's not something that's natural or comfortable to them.
yeah.
So it is something to consider if you want to travel with your bird. I want to get me a harness trained. So I think for Christmas, I'm going to get her an aviator harness. But yeah, I know
Oh, yeah.
I'm I'm anticipating that it's going to be a long process and I want her to be really comfortable with it before I start putting the harness on and taking her out. But
Mhm.
okay, let's wrap things up for today. Oh,
Just one last piece, yeah, about
yeah,
the harness. So
yeah,
you know this one, but we also have a diaper, which is easier to put on. I would consider like this is like faster. It just wings and one click, so it's not all the stuff and wrapping out, which
yeah.
is like I feel like it's better stuff to start from.
Okay.
That's it. Like because harness, it's like a lot of stuff, and you have to put in there and then
Yeah, yeah.
adjust, and she waits for all the stuff because it's not always goes the best way. But that one
Yeah.
is easier. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Anna, thank you so much for joining me.
Of
Thank you
course.
for sharing all of this valuable information. And I think that this information is going to help so many people because I know a lot of people are interested in traveling with their birds and the information's just not there. And you've done it firsthand. So hearing it from you was just awesome.
I really hope that it will help someone because I, yeah, that was hard. That was hell to go through that first. Um, so yeah.
So let everybody know how they can find you on Instagram, how they can follow you and Papuş and all your adventures and your beautiful, beautiful pictures.
Oh, of course. So we have an Instagram page called travel.sunparrot. Okay, this is the one.
Yeah, at
And
travel.sun.parrot.
travel.sun.parrot. Exactly, that's us. And this is a sun conure traveling. So for now, I'm just posting actually the pictures of her and videos of our travels, mixing up with some nature.
Yeah, the pictures
Maybe
are
in future.
beautiful. Every time I see your
Oh, thank
pictures, I'm like,
you.
Oh my God, your bird is so
It's
beautiful,
her.
and so is the
Yes,
scenery.
she's so bright and she always looks so good. And any scenery actually with her on top is like
Yeah, she just looks
therapy.
perfect. Thanks for tuning in to the Parrot Podcast. I'm your host, Sandra from Poodles and Parrots. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm not a licensed avian vet, behaviorist, or professional expert in parrots. The information provided is not intended as a substitute for professional advice from a qualified avian vet, trainer, pet agent, or behaviorist. Consult with a specialist for personalized guidance on your specific situation.